Have you ever found yourself asking, why do I keep attracting emotionally unavailable people? Maybe you keep meeting people who seem interested in the beginning and then they pull away. Maybe they're inconsistent. Maybe they're hot and cold. Or they just are really bad at commitment. Or they say, what's often I find they say they want a relationship and then their actions are not consistent with that. So after a while, you start asking yourself, why am I attracting these people? Am I somehow choosing them subconsciously? And the answer is usually a little bit of both. So one of the biggest misconceptions in personal growth is that attraction is this totally conscious process. Most people think they're choosing partners based on what they want, but in reality, we're often choosing partners based on what feels familiar. And familiar is not always healthy. So if you grew up in an environment where love felt inconsistent, unpredictable, or conditional, then your nervous system may have learned that uncertainty is normal. You may have learned that love requires a lot of effort, that your attention has to be deserved or earned, and that connection in general requires proving yourself. And if that's the emotional environment that you grew up in, emotional unavailable people often feel strangely familiar. Not because they're good for you, but because that's what you've experienced before, right? And this is where people can get confused because you think, well, I thought I'm choosing what I know and that's good, right? Or you're familiar with it, and I've experienced this, but if you've ever met someone who created a lot of emotional intensity, what does it do, right? It also creates a lot of uncertainty. It also creates a lot of longing. So you might mistake that as chemistry, and sometimes it is, but I would conjecture that it's more about being activated, right? So it's like your nervous system is recognizing an old pattern. And one of the hardest truths that people have to learn is that intensity and compatibility are not the same thing. So someone can create intense feelings, like it's amazing, it's super high, like roller coaster feeling, and it can still be completely wrong for you. And someone can feel calm, safe, and stable and actually be much healthier. And for many people, healthy love feels boring at first. Not because it's actually boring, but because it doesn't activate that familiar emotional roller coaster feeling. You know, when you're used to uncertainty, peace can feel unfamiliar. When you're used to chasing, consistency can feel really odd. Or if you're used to earning love from people, being chosen can make you feel really uncomfortable and insecure and maybe make you want to self-sabotage, right? So this is why healing matters, because the goal isn't simply finding a different person. The goal is to become a different version of yourself. So a version of yourself that no longer mistakes inconsistency for passion or anxiety for love, and a version of yourself that recognizes that emotional availability in someone else is actually really attractive. So one thing I often tell clients is this: pay attention to how you feel around someone, not just when you're with them, but afterward. Do you feel grounded? Do you feel confused? Do you feel secure? Do you feel anxious? Do their actions align with what they say? Or are you constantly trying to interpret these mixed signals? First off, emotionally available people are usually way easier to understand. They communicate directly, they follow through, they create clarity. Whereas emotionally unavailable people often create the opposite, right? You're confused. What's happening? Did he mean what he said? And confusion is not actually a love language. So if you consistently find yourself attracted to emotionally unavailable people, don't make yourself wrong. Don't shame yourself. Get curious. Ask yourself, why is this familiar? What am I hoping to receive? What patterns am I repeating? Because awareness is where things start to change, right? So the moment that you become conscious of the pattern, you gain the ability to choose differently. And eventually, something amazing happens. You stop chasing people who can't meet you. You just don't care, right? And you start creating space for people who can actually meet you where you are. So if this resonated with you, let me know below in the comments. Have you ever mistaken emotional unavailability for chemistry? I think we all may have. I'd like to know more about your experience. So if you'd like more content on attachment, healing, relationships, and emotional well-being, make sure to subscribe. Thanks again.